Well, hello there. How are you doing? Welcome to another week of the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair TV show and podcast. Listen, you might be listening through our podcast of Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, or you may be watching us live on our TV show. We are streaming on Apple, Amazon, Fire. We are on Roku TV as well as all of the streaming services. CTR Media Network is our main focal point where billions of people are watching, and we want to thank you for being here today. Listen, my name is Michelle Green. If you don't know me, if this is your first time watching, and for those of you who do know me, hey, we are going to have a good time today as we begin to talk about credit and financial tips. But first, before we get started, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, that you like and you share, because we get into the nitty gritty of the credit and finances. And today we have a very popular topic about assets, equity, and liability. So we're going to be talking about the different things of what you really find out what is yours or not. Is it really yours? Do you really own it? And we're going to dive into that. So before we get started, make sure that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Stop just viewing us and go ahead and marry into the podcast and TV show, okay? And then we can have this whole relationship here where we are talking about your particular finances as you get into the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair Program, and we can assist you with all of your credit and financial needs. All right, we got that out of the way. Now, as always, we always come in every Friday and we talk about what? We talk about what credit is before we even start our topic. So, before we do that, let's talk about what credit is. So, for those of us who are out here that don't know exactly what credit is, what it means, maybe this is our first time really engaging into understanding about our finances, our credit, and how it impacts our life. So, let's talk about what credit is first. Credit is the ability for you to be able to finance something that you don't have enough money for right now, today. Right now, today. If you are just now working, or maybe you lost a job, or you decided to go into a career, and things are just not looking the way that you thought that they should look financially. If you are just starting out in the world, maybe you just graduated from high school, college, and you're trying to figure out like how can you build your money up so that you can be able to do the things that you really have a desire to do, then listen, credit is the biggest thing that you're going to encounter. Let's just say it's something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, because when it comes to credit, it's right up there with oxygen. That's right. It's right up there with that oxygen that we're breathing in and out every day, because it's something that you cannot get around. It's something that you cannot eliminate, at least here in the United States as well as throughout the entire world. Every continent has a level of finances, and where if you don't have enough money now, you be able to finance through a financial institution such as a bank or credit union. And in order for you to build up your credit score, in order for you to build up your reputation with finances, then guess what happens? What happens is that you have the ability, if you have a good reputation, if you have a good credit score, you can get whatever you want. So that's the reason why we come here every single Friday from 12:30 until 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about exactly what credit is, what does it do for you? How can you benefit or gain or improve your credit and your finances? So let's dive into today's topic. Hey, let's go. All right. So first up, we are talking about, do you really own what is yours? Do you own what is actually yours? We tend to talk about a lot about how, we have a house, or we have certain types of items that we say, oh, well, this is mine. It's in my name, and it's mine. So we have this obsession over the things that we call ours, and the things that we feel like, okay, well, if it's mine, it's my responsibility. And sometimes we even feel like, even if it's in my name, it's not my responsibility, it's somebody else's responsibility, because maybe we were doing something pertaining to getting some credit for someone else that wanted our reputation. Well, what I would say about that is we got to understand whether or not something is actually ours based on whether or not it is something that is considered to be an asset, a liability, or a what? Equity. So when we think about equity, we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll define that in just a moment. But we want to understand that the only time that we really have something that belongs to us is when we have paid for it outright. So let's just embrace that idea for a moment. What is actually ours is only the things that we have paid for outright. That means that we don't have any other balances on the things that we have in our name. Okay, so let's just establish that and take that in. So that changes the whole perspective of credit, gaining credit, having assets, and your liabilities, meaning that you don't have any balances that you owe. So when it comes to that perspective, it gives us a different understanding of why we even need credit in the first place. Okay, why do you need credit? You need credit so that you can gain the access of having something that you didn't have access to before. But there is even a problem around the fact that many people don't even have the ability to gain access. So we'll talk about all of that in just a second. But let's talk about these assets. So, what is an asset to begin with? When we normally start out with gaining new credit items on our credit, or we decide that we need a car, we need a maybe some clothes for school or something, or if we need, to build up our ability to have a house in the future, we are going to need credit. And what happens is that we tend to buy items, not all the time, but we tend to start out with items that are considered to be liabilities and not assets. So let's define what an asset is. An asset is anything of value that an individual, a business, or an organization owns. When I said own, remember I said owns outright. That means you don't have a balance on it. But in many cases, an asset can also still be something that you own or have in your name that is actually yours. After you finish paying it off, it will be totally your own item. So it will be, as they say, you own it outright. But if you haven't paid off the balance, there is still an opportunity for you to consider a item a asset. So it's not just something of value that you have paid off. It is something of value that you have not paid off, but it's something that you can use to generate income. So an asset is whether it is an individual that has credit, whether it is a business that has credit. And if you are watching our KB Michelle Green TV show and podcast, then you'll get tips on business over on that side. So make sure you're subscribed to the KB Michelle Green podcast and YouTube channel as well. But anywho, back to the personal credit. Any individual, business, or organization that has anything of value that they can switch over and change into a actual income for themselves, or for whatever item that they are trading in, exchanging, whatever item that they are flipping the currency of that item into, then that is considered to be an asset. It is used to build wealth or to cover any debts. So if you have some debts and you're trying to figure out, like, how can I pay my debts? How can I pay for the things that are on my credit? How can I get my house repaired? How can I, get my car repaired? Then this is a way for this to happen when you have an asset. Our problem with credit is that many of us don't have assets. We don't really think of credit in the terms of an asset. So let me just identify three different categories of assets, because all assets are not created equal. Okay. The first thing that we have is the asset of a emergency. An emergency current asset is considered to be, of course, cash, money, 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 money. Okay. Any type of currency. Then we look at the checking account and your savings account. So sometimes when we are establishing credibility and we're looking at our finances, many of us will only establish a checking account, but we also need to establish a savings account. And it needs to be something in that bank account, okay? In that savings account, as well as in your checking. All right. The other type of currency that we look at as an asset for an emergency level is going to be accounts receivable. That will be money that your customers owe you if you are a business owner, and any type of inventory. Do you have a particular product or service that you sell? Now, I'm going to get into that over on the business side at a different time, but I want us to really think about if there are three categories of assets. We have the emergency asset, we have the short-term asset, and we have the long-term asset. The emergency fund or the emergency term asset is literally just our cash and the bank accounts that show the money going into our bank accounts, and not necessarily the things that are coming out of our bank account, which is why I always teach my clients that you should have a bank account, a checking account that shows only your direct deposits, and then a separate bank account or a separate account with the same bank that shows that you have your expenses coming out in a different way, because a asset is not the same as a liability, and we should never put them together as we have been taught to do in today's society. I think most people who have a bank account usually have their expenses and their deposits going into the same account. But I'm telling you here today, if you want to really gain access to having an asset, put your money in one account and put your expenses or however you pay your bills into a different account, so that all the money that's being collected will be in a particular account to show the assets that you have received. All right. And then we look at what else is a short term asset. A short-term asset is going to be our real estate. So, do you own any property? Do you own land? Do you own a home? It doesn't have to necessarily be a regular stick built house. It could be a mobile home. It could be a modular home. Do you own any type of property where you can flip that into an income or some type of cash? Okay. Then we look at vehicles. Now, there usually a vehicle is not considered to be an asset unless it's like an antique, or it is because when you take a vehicle, you look at the vehicle as depreciating as soon as you take it off the lot. And if you take it off the lot and it was worth $50,000 when you first made the purchase, by the time you drive it off the lot, it's going to be worth $40,000. So normally in most cases a vehicle is not an asset, but in very rare scenarios you may have an old vehicle that is worth value. So if it is a vehicle that you can flip into an income, if you have a vehicle that you can exchange or you can trade in for money, then that is considered to be an asset, but that's a short-term asset, not a long-term asset, and not an emergency asset. It is a short-term asset. Then we look at equipment. Do you have any equipment laying around? Do you have furniture that maybe you could sell? Do you have any electronics that you can sell? That would be something that is considered to be a short-term asset. So many of us have assets, but we just don't realize what an asset is. And that's why it's so important for us to understand the difference between the emergency asset, the short-term asset, and the long-term asset. Now, let's also look at the fact that there are long-term assets. Now, long-term assets will fall under the category of a stock, A bond, a mutual fund, when we were really heavily involved into Forex or Bitcoins and different things like that, whenever you talk about saving money or investing money, rather, into a New York Stock Exchange, if we are talking about being able to receive what we call compound interest, and if you don't know what that is, then you can get into the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair Program and we will break it all down for you so that you can understand it in the simplest form and begin to access the assets. Okay? We want you to access the assets of long term assets. We want you to be able to have a long term asset. So, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, retirement, your 401k, your pension plans, anything that you are doing that will generate a income that is of value as you, the individual, or your business or an organization. Everything would be considered either an emergency asset, a short-term asset, or a long-term asset. So when we look at assets, we first want to just begin to change our mindset around finances and credit, because we want to understand that when we decide that we need credit, when we decide that we want to go and get finance for something, then we want to have the understanding that we're not just going at it from the angle of, I just need this item right now. I need this item so that I can turn it into an income later. I can turn it into an asset. We want either an emergency asset, a short-term asset, or a long-term asset. Does that make sense out there? Does that make sense? Y'all leave a comment below that makes sense. Go ahead and type that in the chat, okay? Now, the next thing that we're looking at is the liabilities. Now, most of us know what the liability is because we're struggling in the liabilities already. The liability is the fact that we have a credit card, we have a personal loan, a furniture loan, a vehicle loan, a student loan, medical debt, vision. If we are going to the dentist, if we're going to the eye doctor, if we're going to the foot doctor, if we're going to, the lung, the eye, nose, and ear doctor, whoever we're going to as in the medical field, what we want to understand about that is that we are creating liabilities. So it is not okay that we only create liabilities and we don't have any assets to back up those liabilities. So we got to change the way that we're thinking about our finances and our credit, because a liability is something such as taxation. It's something that you have to literally pay out. It's debts, it's obligations, it's anything that you legally are responsible to pay back. And that is going to take away from your asset. So any expense, anything that is causing you to have to pay money that you know that you owe, that has been in your name either for a short period of time, a long period of time, or even if you just open up a new line of credit, a new debt, that is your obligation, and that is considered to be a liability. Now, the problem with the assets is that some of us who do have assets, first, we didn't realize that it was an asset that we could flip or change or trade or exchange for money. Then we tend to misunderstand the concept of having too many liabilities that we don't even have value of what is called equity. Now, equity is the ability for you to have ownership or value in something after you have subtracted your liabilities. Okay, to have equity, it means that the thing that you could have flipped into money, minus your expenses, minus the debts, minus the obligations, minus all of the things that I just named, that would equal equity. So, how much do you actually own and know that is actually yours based on assets versus liabilities and ending up with the actual equity? So when we look at equity, what we do is the formula to find out what your equity is. Let's take a home, for example. If your house is worth $300,000 and you have a mortgage balance of $200,000, then that means that you have equity in your house worth $100,000. That's right. So the biggest and greatest asset that is out there, I would say, is going to be the long-term assets and the short-term assets that we just talked about. So if you have a house, and a house is considered to be a short-term asset. Why? Because when we look at homes, most people will either sell their home or they may lose their home because they can't continue to pay for the home. So it's too many liabilities that get in the way of them being able to finally pay off their house. But if you have a house, and regardless of whether or not you have paid that house balance off altogether, or if you have a balance on that house, when you subtract all of the expenses on that house alone, then that is going to show you how much equity is inside of the home. And if we are looking at it from a personal net worth, let's say that you made $100,000 a year, and then you have to take out the expenses of what you owe. And let's say you owe $50,000 a year in debts, in credit card debt, in personal loans, in maybe student loans. You got $25,000 of student loans. If you have all of this and you made $100,000 in your personal income, and then your personal income is an asset, right? So then you look at your liabilities. So, what are the liabilities of the things that you would have to pay off as a balance? If you had to totally take out, even if we just looked at the monthly expenses that you owe every 30 days that you had to pay on a regular basis, your lights, your water, your internet, all of that, the cell phone bills, including the furniture bill, including the vehicle loan payment, including the mortgage payment. If we did it just in the monthly payment expense, then your assets would be subtracted from your liabilities, will be subtracted from your asset, which is your income. And your $100,000, if you owed liabilities of $50,000 every 30 days, then your equity is only $50,000. So we look at that in the tax world as adjusted gross income. So when we go out and we try to apply for credit, if we don't have the actual equity in our personal finances to be able to afford an item, we call that debt to income ratio. And that is a reason why some lenders and creditors will not give us any more credit. So we got to understand, what is the asset? Do you really know what is yours? Yes, you made the money, but how many liabilities do you have to say that you really have a revenue or a profit from the money that you made? Okay, that's what we're talking about here. So we got to understand that equity is everything, but also assets are everything. So that's why it's so important for us to really begin to focus on the things that are considered to be an asset. Do you have any investments? Do you have any savings? Do you have any type of property? Do you own a vehicle? Are you leasing a vehicle versus owning a vehicle? Do you have any equipment? Do you have any furniture? Even in the individual arena, there are farmers out there. There are people who have certain types of equipment just lying around in their home and not realizing that they could exchange that equipment for money, for cash, for currency. And that's how we need to begin to think about the world of credit and finances. When you own something, whether you have paid off the balance or not, if you have the ability to trade it or exchange it, minus your liabilities, then that would generate money for you right now. And the world is in a mindset of scarcity and lack. So, what I'm trying to say here is that Kingdom Builders Credit Repair wants you to understand that you just need to shift your mindset, because I know you have something that is of value. I know that you have something in your home, something in your surroundings, something in your family, even that could be exchanged for cash. And that, therefore, we're really not as dependent or broke or in lack or in need as we think we are. What happens is that all we're doing is gaining knowledge. We're gaining information about something that we didn't realize that was already always there in the first place. It was always available to you in the first place because it was always a part of your family. It was always a part of your household, and you just didn't realize what an asset was so that you could be able to exchange that for money. That's why equity is the greatest thing that we can learn about our finances, about our credit, because that gives us the ability to be able to cash out in areas where we thought that we didn't have much. So think about, what do you have? Do you have some jewelry that you could exchange that is of value? Do you have something, some type of painting, some type of artwork? Do you have something that is of value that was passed down from maybe one generation to the next generation that you could literally take out the expenses, the liabilities, subtract that from the asset, and gain an income from that money that you would receive as equity? I really want you to stop right now and just begin to make a list. Take inventory of what it is that you have around you. Some of us have electronics, we have printers, we have computers. We've exchanged things all throughout the years of our life without really understanding what it is that we could go and sell so that we can gain money and income for what it is that we have already. So take inventory of what you have in your house, what you have in your hands. What do you have around you in business? What do you have as a individual, as a child even? Do you have a piggy bank? Are you accruing money? Do you have a savings? Do you have an investment? Do you have a house? Do you have a car? Do you have something? You have something that is around you that is worth more than what you think it is worth. So let's begin to pull out the equity in the things that are assets all around us every single day. Listen, if you've learned something from today's message, make sure that you leave a comment below. Go ahead and like and share, and tell a friend about Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, and let them know that the things that you're learning about credit and about finances, that you learned it right here at KBCR TV show. You learned it right here in the KBCR podcast. You learned this from KB Michelle Green. That's right. You learned it right here. So make sure that you share, you subscribe, you tell a friend, you comment, and that you get in where you can, while you can, in the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair program. We have a 12-month program that we take you through and thoroughly go through your credit and your finances. We help you with budgeting. We help you with everything that relates to money. We teach you how to gain assets, and we actually connect you with people who can give you the assets. So that's the loan officers, that's the real estate agents, those are the investors. I'm a financial advisor myself, so I can actually guide you to the places that you should invest your money, to the places that you should gain the equipment, the furniture, that you can gain the jewelry. That's right, the paintings, the art. We have connections galore. So don't just be watching us and viewing us and not really obtaining the solution that we have for you. We have a solution that is like no other. We have a solution for you that will really change your life. All you have to do is call us at 844-522-7552, or go to our website, www.kingdombuilderscreditrepair.com. Thank you guys for watching today, and I hope that you learned something. Let me know what you learned, And we'll see you next Friday from
At Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, you are more than a customer. You are a partner in your credit repair journey. We offer one-on-one guidance in a warm and friendly atmosphere. Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, empowering people to have financial dominion on purpose. Visit us online at www.kingdombuilderscreditrepair.com. 1320 Main Street, Suite 300, Columbia, South Carolina, 29201. Call 844-KBCR LLC. 844-KBCR LLC.